Let's jump right into this explainer and tackle one of the most viral financial promises floating around the internet right now. You know the one. The idea that you can retire in exactly 10 years starting with just $50,000. You've probably seen the thumbnails, the complex spreadsheets, maybe even the rented Porsches. But what actually happens when a normal person tries to run this math in the real world? Well, to figure that out, we need to look at two identical starting points.
Meet Faye and Olin. Now, they are both exactly 34 years old. They both have exactly $50,000 invested on the exact same Tuesday night, and they both open up a spreadsheet targeting a 10-year retirement timeline. They even hold the exact same total market index fund. But here is the mystery that's going to hook you. 10 years later, Faye is 44, and she doesn't work. Alden is 44, and he still does. And it absolutely wasn't discipline because Alden never missed a single contribution. It wasn't luck, and it definitely wasn't the market. So what on earth was it?
Section 1. The Tale of Two Savers. You see, the differentiator between Faye and Alden's outcomes wasn't some secret, heavily guarded investment strategy. It was actually something entirely different, sitting right on the kitchen table the whole time. Just look at the actual breakdown of Faye's success. After 10 years, Faye crossed the finish line with roughly $963,000. So let's just call it $1 million. But look closely at those slices. That original $50,000 in the title of the myth, even with a decade of growth, it only makes up 10% of her final outcome. A whopping 90% of her retirement is money she hadn't even earned yet on the night she opened that spreadsheet. The real truth here is that Faye and her husband have a massive combined income of about $240,000 after taxes. Because of that, she can easily shovel $5,000 a month into the market without it feeling like financial surgery. So that $50,000 seed money, it was never the engine. Her massive salary was.
Section 2. The Brutal Arithmetic of Savings.
And this brings us to what it actually takes for a normal person to attempt this extreme math, a part the internet rarely mentions because, frankly, it's just rude. To pull off Faye's plan, you need to save $60,000 a year. Let's apply that to a normal American household, right? The median household income in the U.S. is about $83,700 a year before taxes. If they tried to save $60,000, that would literally be 72% of their gross income. If you cut absolutely all possible expenses, take out your taxes, and try to make this work, you are left with just $660 a month to run your entire life. And yeah, that includes housing, food, and that kid who inexplicably needs new shoes every 4 months. No way, right?
As our source material perfectly puts it, that's not frugality, that's a hostage situation. And remember, to actually make this 10-year plan work, you'd have to hold yourself hostage for 120 consecutive months. Sure, it's a mathematically true plan on paper, but it is physically unlivable for the median earner.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates why you really shouldn't feel behind. Whenever someone quotes an average in personal finance, they're usually quoting a number that belongs to literally no living human being. Take a look at Vanguard's data. The average 401k balance is around $168,000. But the median, the actual real middle person standing in the exact center of the line, is about $44,000. That massive gap, it's caused by a tiny number of enormous accounts just dragging the average way up. So the crucial takeaway here is, if you're sitting there at 34 with $50,000, you are not behind. Statistically speaking, you are actually winning.
But okay, let's say you are Faye. You made your million. The big question is, how much can you actually spend? Now, you've likely heard of the 4% rule, which comes from William Bengen's famous 1994 study. But here is the massive danger. That rule was stress-tested for a 30-year retirement. If you retire at 44 and live to 90, you're trying to fund 46 years of life. Taking a rule built for a marathon and applying it to a completely different expedition is just dangerous. Today, analysts suggest a much safer rate for modern conditions is 3.9%. And for our millionaire Faye, well, that means a terrifyingly tight budget of $39,000 a year before taxes. Think about that. You saved $1 million and your grand prize is a budget that makes a public school teacher nervous.
Section 3. The 10% Return Trap.
This perfectly brings us to Dave, our third saver, who built his fancy spreadsheet on a very, very dangerous historical assumption. You see, Dave ran his numbers assuming a 10% return simply because that's the historical average of the S&P 500. It's a real number, sure, but it only describes the past. Look at what the actual professionals forecasting the exact 10-year window of Dave's plan are predicting right now. Vanguard sees 3.5% to 5.5%. Goldman Sachs says roughly 3%. BlackRock is in the 5s, and JP Morgan is playing the optimist at 6.7%. Notice how absolutely nobody is anywhere near 10%. Why is that? Well, because stocks are currently really expensive. The Shiller-Cape ratio is sitting around 41, which is a height we've rarely seen in the last 140 years.
So, let's track Dave's actual timeline. He aggressively invests $3,000 a month. By year 6, he is feeling intense financial dread. He's doing math in his car. He's skipping his best friend's wedding because his emergency fund is practically load-bearing at this point. He is paying a massive psychological price. But the real tragedy? Building a plan on a 10% assumption means you don't find out you failed in year 1. You find out in year 9. Dave opens his account expecting to see that $750,000 from his sticky note, only to find $516,000. The market simply handed him a different decade, and at year 9, there is literally zero time left to fix it.
Section 4. The hidden healthcare leash. Now, if the math doesn't get you, there's another hidden, totally devastating expense that these early retirement spreadsheets always seem to conveniently ignore: health insurance. When you retire at 44, you are a full 21 years away from Medicare. Thanks to expiring subsidies and the return of the dreaded subsidy cliff, if a couple's income goes even one single dollar over roughly $84,000, they lose all their subsidies and can instantly face shocking premiums of $22,000 a year. Let that sink in. That is not just a line item on a budget, that is an entire mortgage. Out of Faye's $39,000 annual allowance, $22,000 of those thousands could go straight to an insurance company before she has bought a single thing that makes a life actually worth retiring into. This whole dynamic creates what our source calls the leash. Think about it. Your employer buys your health insurance with pre-tax dollars, which is this massive benefit that completely vaporizes the second you have to buy it yourself. Employers benefit from a workforce that simply cannot leave. Insurers benefit from captive customers who never shop around. Nobody in this system profits from you being free. This system just wasn't built for you to leave 21 years early. You aren't failing at the math, you are deliberately being contained.
Section 5. Rules for real financial freedom.
Okay, so if extreme frugality is a hostage situation and healthcare is a leash, what actually works for normal earners like us? Let's look at the actionable, perfectly legal strategies that really move the needle. First off, the biggest myth is that your money is totally locked up until you're 59 and a half. It isn't. You've got the Roth conversion ladder, where you convert funds during low-income retirement years and can withdraw them penalty-free after 5 years. You have the Rule of 55, and you also have Rule 72T, which allows for substantially equal periodic payments. These are totally real, completely legal IRS escape hatches. Their only security system is that the paperwork is incredibly boring. To build your overall strategy, first, absolutely maximize your health savings account, or HSA. It is triple tax advantaged, meaning it's tax-free going in, tax-free growing, and tax-free coming out. It is literally the ultimate antidote to that healthcare leash we just talked about. Second, take 100% of your employer match. I mean, it's the only guaranteed 100% return available to you anywhere. And finally, the most powerful lever of all, increase your income. Over 10 years, a $20,000 raise that you simply refuse to spend will beat absolutely every spending cut you ever try to make. Growing your income scales infinitely, whereas cutting out lattes hits a floor very, very quickly.
Section 6. The Power of Coast Fire.
Let's bring this explainer all the way back to Alden. Remember him? The normal earner making $95,000 a year. Let's reveal how he ultimately wins without ever crossing that 10-year early retirement finish line. Alden targets a realistic 5% growth plan, not that 7% or 10% fantasy. He steadily invests $1,200 a month for 10 years. By age 44, Alden has accumulated about $237,000. And here's where it gets amazing. He just stops. He never contributes another dollar. Because of the magic of compound interest, by the time he hits 60, that completely untouched nest egg grows to roughly $630,000 in today's money. This brilliantly illustrates the concept of coast fire. It's all about reaching a portfolio size where you simply stop contributing. You see, Alden didn't buy an early retirement at 44. He bought a floor. He bought the permanent end of his financial fear. From 44 onward, every single paycheck he earns belongs entirely to his present life. The house, the trip, maybe that career change he was previously too terrified to make. The automatic contributions and index funds just run in the background, quietly funding his old age.
So while Faye bought a finish line, Alden bought a floor. And a floor is what actually lets you take risks in life. Which leaves us with this final crucial thought. Forget the specific dollar numbers for a second. If you never had to save another dime for retirement, if your future was already fully funded and every paycheck from here on out was purely yours, what would you do on Monday? Because honestly, the answer to that question is worth considerably more than $50,000.